Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi Facebook Live every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. I am your host, Dan Z. Of course, so good to be with all of you. I'm assuming the volume is okay. Everybody can hear me okay. Just let me know out there. I am thrilled to do this. I tell you what, the adrenaline and the excitement of thank you, Alex. I'm a fan of the mixing board as well. It's been really fun to make that thing. That was last week was the premiere of that. We have had an absolute blast doing it. Hey, Aaron, thank you so much. Yes, you know what? This is becoming one of my favorite parts of Monday as well. Of just really of doing the show. As I said before, I like doing the show as much as possible naturally. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. The intro is something again that we had a blast doing. Myself, my son. We used the music from Steve Torok. Really, really good. Thank you, Brian. I'm glad the audio sounds good. But instead of doing two shows a week, I thought I would do a Facebook Live on Mondays and then record the show and release that for you on Thursday. So you get a nice bit of a balance of coffee with Kenobi throughout the week. Again, I am your host, Dan Z. Very, very excited to be here with each and every one of you tonight on Facebook Live. I tell you what, it sure is fun to be a Star Wars fan, right? No matter what is going on in the world, Star Wars gives us a lot to talk about. So tonight I promised that we were going to look at your top five favorite lightsaber duels from Star Wars. Now they don't all have to be necessarily things like stuff from the movies. It could be stuff from the comics. It could be stuff from Rebels, from Clone Wars, of course, from the films, whatever kind of strikes you. That was what I was interested in people talking about. So, let's. Is there a way for me to do a poll here? I'm not really sure. Tell you what, I think what I want to do is first is I want to talk about these Jedi that were revealed a couple of days ago on StarWars.com. Of course, the High Republic is coming out. It's going to be a multi-faceted literary release. It's going to have novels by Charles Soule and a number of great Star Wars authors that everyone really loves and really, really is excited about creatively. They're some of the very, very best in the business. So that's a really, really cool thing. So let's look at these a little more specifically. Before I do that, by the way, I was on a number of podcasts. I was on 5 different podcasts over the past couple of days, and I hope I remember them all. I was on Talking Toys with Taylor and Jeff, talking about G.I. Joe Wave 4, so that was good. I was on Adam's show, perfect timing, Adam, from a certain point of view. We talked about positivity in fandom, and that was a really, really fun show. Be sure to check that out. Adam, I believe that was released, was it yesterday? I think that's right. So that was really, really fun. I was on Star Wars 7x7, getting to talk about kind of, it was almost like sort of the history of me and how I got to be a teacher and then a podcaster and how Coffee with Kenobi grew. And that was great too. Not Adam, but Star Wars 7x7 is a great, great podcast that we had fun. And then we had the IndieCast, of course, with Ed Dahlstad. Ed was on with me for the show where we looked at the top 5 things we love about The Rise of Skywalker. And then now he and I did the show. I was on the IndieCast talking about when I met Harrison Ford, and that was great fun as well. And then Tatooine came out yesterday. Thanks for a shout. You are welcome, Adam. I want to see. We just had so much fun with all of these different shows, and my gosh, it's just fun. Like, I mean, I had some extra time, and I wanted to be on Tatooine Sons anyway, so that was wonderful. I mean, those guys were great. I mean, you've got a father and his 2 sons talking Star Wars, and they interviewed me, and we had an absolute blast. Well, look who's here. It's the co-creator of Coffee with Kenobi, Mr. Corey Clubb. Hey, man. The intro card, by the way, I'm going to go back to that really, really quickly just so you can kind of see it. It's helping me design this and make it look a little bit better. Just as far as just the font and the size and things like that. And Corey was like, that's not as easy as it looks. And I'm like, you are right, dude. You were so right. So I am very fortunate that I'm able to have you as my forever co-pilot, helping me make this show look as professional as possible. Speaking of that, before we get into the first topic, I want to be sure to make sure everybody is aware that, of course, my book, the Star Wars book, written by myself, Pablo Hidalgo, and Cole Horton, is out October 20th, 2020. It's available now for pre-order on Amazon, and I'm thrilled about the book. I can't say too much about it, but I am really, really excited to have you check it out. And when you read it, I think it's really going to generate some great conversation, which I'm very, very excited about. What I can say about it is all on the Amazon.com description. It's a number of curated essays about a lot of Star Wars topics and characters and thematic ideas, and it really is really, really good. Corey, you are so welcome, man. You continue to make the show look great, and I am forever grateful for that. All right, let's talk about the High Republic. The High Republic is set 200 years before The Phantom Menace. And StarWars.com recently revealed a number of new Jedi that are going to be a big part of this galaxy. All right, so the first one we have is Avar Kriss. Now, obviously, I am not completely familiar with some of these characters as far as anything about them. I don't even really know how to pronounce them, quite honestly. I mean, and how could you? It's all really, really new stuff. So Avar Kriss is on StarWars.com is the brightest, most noble example of Jedihood. She always tries to see the good in people and situations and never puts herself first. She's invigorated by life on the frontier and the challenge it brings as an inspiration for all those who work with her. She's compassionate, not dogmatic, and always ready to sacrifice herself above others. Avar Kriss is the best of the best. So initially, when you see this, what kind of goes through your mind, right? What are some of the things that you find interesting about that? I mean, off the bat, for me, I think it's interesting that it says that she basically seems to be sort of the pinnacle of what it means to be a Jedi during the time of the High Republic, which is interesting. Yeah, these new Jedi got me 10 times more excited to meet them all. Adam, I agree with you. There's a lot to like, a lot to be excited about with this. It says that she's not dogmatic. Now, the word dogmatic or dogma always catches my eye because of what happened in Revenge of the Sith, where Palpatine, one of his pieces, that the Jedi follow this dogmatic view of things. And so when I see that, I see this is someone who has high ideals, but isn't didactic and preachy about everything. And she is someone that the Jedi admire, someone that the Jedi are drawn to, I guess it's possible to say, because she is sort of the best of the best. I mean, that's in the description right there. So any thoughts on that Jedi? I mean, I think she seems really, really cool, but I don't know a ton about her. Hey, Joey, how's it going? Joey's a longtime friend of mine. He was actually in my wedding. He was one of my groomsmen, which is really, really cool. LJ, good to see you, man. Good to see you. I love it. Adam says, I thought it was interesting that he used the word dogmatic right off the bat. You read my mind, good sir. LOL. Well, the force is strong with us, I guess, right? Tyler, these are your first time seeing these. Well, cool. Well, let's move on to the next one. Anybody else, feel free to weigh in. But the next person on our list, let me pull it up here for everybody, is... Let's put her away. Now we're going to bring in Loden Greatstorm. Now, Loden Greatstorm is the most Dungeons and Dragons sounding name of all of these characters, I think. So let's take a look at this according to StarWars.com. I'm going to pull it up right here while you're looking at this. And according to StarWars.com, this Jedi is a Twi'lek Jedi Master and is considered to be one of the best teachers in the Jedi Order. Strong and wise with a good sense of humor, Loden looks at every moment as a learning experience, always trying to better himself and those around him, especially his Padawan. So, immediately, what makes that jump out? So Alex says, is Avar Kriss like the Yoda of the High Republic? I don't know. I mean, it certainly seems like, they listed her first. I think she's on the cover of the first book that Charles Soule is writing, so I think that's interesting too. But back to Loden, yeah, I love his name from the bio. He's an early favorite. I think he looks cool. I think he looks interesting. I like that he has a yellow lightsaber. I think that's interesting. I think that certainly stands out. Joey, you are welcome, my friend. I miss you. I hope all is well for you in New York. So Tyler says the sense of humor. I'm used to Twi'leks being stoic. Yeah, I found that interesting as well. Absolutely, strong and wise, good sense of humor, and always trying to better himself and those around him. So both of these Jedi, both Loden and Avar, sound like they're just pillars of strength and pillars of, I guess, certainly being positive, but just exemplary beings in the galaxy. But they don't appear to have ego, which I think is great. Strong and wise with a good sense of humor. That's obviously a very good combination. It says Loden looks at every moment as a learning experience. I think that's interesting as well. So that's Loden. So the next one we have is, her name is Keeve Trennis. I believe that, again, it's hard to know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, so I apologize for that if it doesn't sound correct. But, we'll find out very, very soon. So right away when you look at Keeve, you notice the sort of the dark brown, the tan overcovering. You've got that awesome green dual lightsaber. We haven't really seen a ton of dual lightsabers as far as the good side of the Force. I mean, in the Clone Wars, you have that renegade Jedi that goes bad that has a double-bladed lightsaber, whose name is escaping me, but feel free to pop it up in the comments. Alex says he's already liking Loden from his description. Again, Loden Greatstorm is like such a great name for a wizard in Dungeons and Dragons, I think. So I think that's pretty cool. So back to Keeve. This is what it says about Keeve. Keeve is a young firebrand Jedi believed to have a great future ahead of her, if only she would believe it herself. Quick-witted and more impulsive than she should be, Keeve has only been a Jedi Knight for a few weeks and is a little starstruck around Avar, knowing many of the great things Chris has done in the past. She's determined to prove herself to Avar and the other legendary Jedi stationed on Starlight Beacon. But first, she must learn to trust in herself as much as she trusts in the Force. So that's very interesting. Dennis says, best robes so far. They are really, really cool. I agree with that. LJ comments on double-bladed green. I think that's neat as well. Double-bladed we typically equate with the Sith, and obviously that's not the case here as well. Pong Krell, yes, thank you, Colby. It was at the tip of my head. So yes, that's exactly right. Alex loves the lightsaber too, which is really, really awesome. So what I like about this one, hey Eric, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Always good to see Eric, of course. Eric is a great writer, by the way. I know I said that last week. Be sure to check out his stuff. He's a great writer. Has a great sense of things. So, what I like about this character, about Keeve, is that Keeve, she seems to be more human, right? The other two, I mean, obviously Twi'lek isn't human, but it says, and Brian says she reminds me of Bastila Shan. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way. But they have Eric, you are welcome. It's they're humanistic as far as having foibles, not being perfect, things like that. And that's fun. I mean, you need to have those pillars, certainly those sort of Mount Olympus types, but Keeve is someone that is a newly minted Jedi and starstruck. I believe she is the focal point. Is it the comic book series? I probably should have pulled up those books, those descriptions of those books. Feel free to let us know in the comments to the side or below, of course. But she wants to prove herself. She's stationed on Starlight Beacon, but she has to learn to trust in herself as much as she trusts in the Force. I think it's important that they have Jedi that doubt themselves, because otherwise they're just perfect, and then there's no real risk, there's no real cost. It's not as compelling, I don't think, all the time. I think those internal conflicts that sometimes we see, I think, are among the most interesting in literature and in storytelling. So it looks like Keeve is going to supply that for us. All right, so this next one, I'm very, very excited about. Let's pull this one up. Yeah, I'm going to make this one a little bit larger because I think for some reason this one isn't as big. Okay, this one is Stellan. Is it Gios? Gios. So this is what it says about Stellan Gios. Stellan is an optimistic and well-respected Jedi Master. Stellan came up through the Order with Avar Kriss, and although they are often on different assignments for the Jedi or the Republic, when the two work together, they are a powerhouse team of two noble heroes in action. Strong in the Force and a natural teacher, Stellan is currently stationed at one of the Jedi Temple outposts on the distant planet of Karagon Viner. So I'm pretty sure he is the main character in the Claudia Gray novel. And I remember Claudia Gray saying she sort of pictured what it would be like to be trapped on a Star Cruiser with why can I not think of his name? Boy, I'm having a heck of a time with names tonight. The actor is famous for going, all right, even though he's a pretty respected Oscar-winning talent. Why can't I think of his name? Well, anyway. So Tyler says he needs a Black Series figure already. He looks awesome. Yeah. Paladin vibes. Exactly. So this character, I need to quit pointing at the camera. Looks crazy. This character, I think, is really intriguing to me anyway, because first of all, look at that lightsaber hilt. As many of you know, I'm a huge fan of Jedi hilts, of Sith hilts, just of lightsaber hilts in general. And I think, I mean, look at that. It's got that crossbar in it. It looks like a knight. One of the things we were promised at this press event was that think of the Jedi during the time of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Boom. I mean, look at that. It's a paladin. It looks very much like a paladin to me. And the fact that this Jedi is a teacher, of course, is going to resonate with me. And the fact that he is strong by himself, but also when he works as a team, they're almost unbeatable. I love it. And stationed on one of the Jedi Temple outposts, which apparently there are a lot of these Jedi Temple outposts all over the place, which is really, really cool. Matthew McConaughey, of course. How could I not think of that? So that's Stellan Gios, perhaps. He is certainly my favorite, at least off the bat, because I like that hilt. He sort of reminds me how I picture my Dungeons & Dragons character Zedai, if I may, which is, of course, a combination of the words Jedi and Zer. I mean, coming up with names, I think, is hard. So kudos to them. So everybody's popping in. Brandy says, Matthew McConaughey, thank you. Alex says the same thing, very, very good. That's exactly what it is. And I guess I can kind of see that in the design as well. Okay, so we've got one left. Let's see. So this character, I'm going to make this one a little bit larger as well. Move that down here for everybody to see. This one I think is the hardest to pronounce. I'm assuming that's a purple lightsaber. It looks like that. But her name is Vernestra Vern, and the last name is R-W-O-H. So it's Ra, perhaps, or Wa, I'm not sure. I'm assuming the W is silent, so it'll be interesting to see when those are pronounced, hopefully. See? Tom, see? Yeah, Tom, just like I said. Zedai, yeah, exactly. It does seem a lot like Zedai. So let's go back to Vern. Vern is a newly minted Jedi Knight. She was a Padawan to Stellan Gios, so the character we just looked at a few moments ago. She works hard and is devoted to the Jedi Order, more so than most others at her age. At 16, she is one of the youngest knights in a generation. She struggles to fit in with the adults while also setting a good example for the younger Jedi. And so Alex says she's going to be in a children's novel. I believe that is correct as well. Be sure to go to StarWars.com. So there you have it. You've got a little bit of a closer look at these Jedi. Not only what they look like and their actual names, but also very much a look at just sort of a very broad stroke about what makes them tick, which I think is really, really compelling. Very good. All right, so let's move on from there. Let us know in the comments what you think about these different Jedi. Dennis says that it looks a little bit like Ahsoka. Yeah, I could see that as well. Sort of a very, very powerful, very, very capable, but also that yearning, that devotion to the Jedi Order, and just seems very, very sort of precocious, sort of mature beyond their age, which I think is fascinating, really. By the way, the shirt I'm wearing tonight is ILM's Mandalorian crew shirt that was kind enough to send to me. It's really, really great. I love wearing it because it's long sleeve. It's from Lucasfilm, so thanks Lucasfilm for sending that to me. I wish I could say that I'm wearing this because we've got Mandalorian news. We don't. But, I mean, they're working on the effects for that. They had everything filmed for Season 2, before everything had to shut down because of what's going on in the world today. So that's good news for sure. So yeah, I think that's pretty good for looking at the High Republic for now. But if you have any questions, comments, who are some of your early favorites, go ahead and let us know in the comments below, and I'd be happy to talk about it a little bit sooner. All right, so now it's time to move on to what was promised to be sort of the main thing to look at. I'm, again, your host, Dan Z. Thanks again for joining us here every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook, coffeewithkenobi.com/live. I'm looking at the comments here. That helmet on your arm, that would be a sweet tattoo. You know, I'm going to quote Daffy Duck. I don't like pain. It hurts. I don't know if I could ever get a tattoo. I think I'd probably wuss out a little bit. I think they'd be cool. I'm certainly not opposed to them, you know, in any way, shape, or form. But I don't know. I think they're pretty cool. I do like the helmet quite a bit, for sure. Oh, I didn't mean to make that go away. Sorry about that. All right, so Jim Capron says, Jim, good to see you, man. Says, I hope we get info on the non-force wielding characters soon, too. For some reason, those are the characters I tend to gravitate to. Oh, that's interesting. Can you think of any specific ones, Jim, that you've sort of gravitated to that are non-force wielders? I mean, Han Solo, I guess, comes to mind right away. That's certainly a classic one for sure. I don't know. Who are some other non-force users that are really, really exciting? Tyler says tattoos aren't that bad. I'm hopefully going to get a Star Wars one next. Really? Oh, that would be cool. That would make Matt Martin really, really proud. Matt Martin's got a ton of tattoos, but he's got a ton of Star Wars tattoos as well. Daniel, welcome to the show. Daniel says it opens a whole new world for cosplay. Yeah, you know what? Cosplay is a good point. I feel like that might even be easier to a degree because it's just like the classic sort of knight apparel. I mean, that's an interesting one for sure. Oh my gosh. Jim puts it in caps. It's Jim we're talking about. Jim, I don't know how I didn't think of that before. Of course, Jyn Erso. It's got to be Jyn Erso. I mean, who else would it be? Jyn Erso is the ultimate thing when a non-force user is a hero in the world of Star Wars for sure. Well, Hera Syndulla as well. Brian says he loves the holster on Stellan. Yeah, that's a good call. The holster is super, super cool to be sure. Space Vikings, Eric says, is a really good point as well. Vikings, knights, things like that, kind of that classic take charge. It's not like necessarily a police force, but more like sort of, they do look like galactic peacekeepers for sure. And then Tom points out Hera, who we spoke about. And Sabine is certainly a good choice as well. And then Padme, of course. By the way, are people reading the new Darth Vader comic book series? There's an interesting thing that happens in there, speaking of Padme, that I'm curious. And Tom, I thought of you when I read the second issue because I feel like it crosses over into the series with Padme that came out, the sequel I just let you borrow. That hasn't come out yet, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't want to spoil anything but for the comic or the novel itself, but they're doing some interesting stuff with the prequel era. There is no doubt about this. Alex says he's looking forward to these stories. Can't wait for them. I can't wait for them either. I think there's a lot of promise there. All right. I feel like that's pretty good. Let's move on to the main topic. I wish I had like a fancy little logo that says, ooh, top 5. Maybe, Corey, maybe that'll be your next assignment, buddy. So the assignment, sort of the idea for today was to look at our top 5 favorite Star Wars lightsaber duels. Now, it can be because of choreography. It can be because of, narrative impact. It could just be, it's a great scene, the music. It doesn't really matter. It's sort of up to you, however you decide that you want to weigh it in. Again, if you're just joining us, thanks so much, everybody, for being here. I'm your host, Dan Z, the host and brand director, brand manager guy of Coffee with Kenobi. Manager, is that like in my name tag, brand manager guy, content creator, director, or something? I'm just Dan, and I'm happy to talk stars with you. We're every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time on Facebook Live. You can go to facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi or coffeewithkenobi.com/live, and you will find us to be sure. And of course, you can find us in the CWK Cafe. All right, now let's talk about how this is going to work. How this is going to work is very, very simple. We're just going to go backwards, and I did rank mine. I have my top 5 lightsaber duels. Now, this is tricky. Top 5s are tricky because, of course, you may be tempted later to like, gosh, I don't know where to put this one, or even you can change your mind later. Of course, this isn't set in concrete in front of the Magic Kingdom. This is more just something fun tonight. So I came up with my top 5. What I like to do, and if it's okay with everyone else, is in the comments. It would be great if you would just give your top 5 as I'm giving my top 5, and we'll talk about them. So I'll start. My first one in the top 5 list of favorite lightsaber duels in Star Wars, again, from comics, from the animated stuff, from novels, from the movies, of course, is Ahsoka's fight in Season 2 against the Inquisitors. This is one that, for some reason, came to my mind right away. And it's great because we haven't seen Ahsoka, since the end of Season 5 of Clone Wars until this season. But even then, time-wise, a lot of time has passed. There's the Ahsoka novel, naturally. But to see Ahsoka in action on a screen was very powerful. She fights the seventh sister and the fifth brother. The whole time they're chasing down infant potential force sensitives. Ezra is running from them the entire show. Chopper is running from them. Zeb is running from them. And then Ahsoka shows up and just takes them down and makes it look really easy. And she takes their lightsabers from them. And she's just so fierce and powerful. There's a great meme of her loading up her 2 lightsabers. And it's just wonderful. It really is just a great, great number 5. So that's my number 5. What is everybody else's number 5 on their list? Their top 5 favorite lightsaber duels. So surely a lot of you out there have made them and are ready to go and discuss them. While you're doing it up again, I want to be sure to let you know that if you didn't hear the great news, I got to write my very first Star Wars book, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I can't wait to talk about it much more in the future. It's called The Star Wars Book: Expand Your Knowledge of a Galaxy Far, Far Away. You can pre-order that on Amazon. And it's by myself, Pablo Hidalgo, and Cole Horton. So what an incredible honor to be able to be an author with those 2 guys. I mean, awesome guys, awesome collaborators. Again, it's available October 20th. So let's get back to the list. Again, my number 5 was the duel, Ahsoka against the Inquisitors. Tyler weighs in. He says, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul. I highlighted the prequels. Amazing, blazing fast choreography. Darth Maul being a total boss. And the introduction of the iconic Duel of the Fates. It sets a high bar for the prequel duels that was tough to follow. I totally agree. LJ weighs in with one that actually didn't make my list, and gosh, that almost might be like an honorable mention. But Ahsoka versus Vader is very, very powerful. Narratively, of course, there's just so much. The Clone Wars, Anakin and Ventress. You know what? That's a good call as well in 2003. There's some powerful ones. Daniel, thanks for weighing in on that. Jim says his number 5 is Rey versus Kylo on Starkiller. Love the setting and the music. That's a really, really good one as well. Just a lot of powerful ones to look at, aren't there? So LJ says, and this is back to Anakin against Vader, the emotion was amazing. Ahsoka forcing Ezra away to save him, and then Matt Lanter / James Earl Jones voicing Vader was amazing. It really was. And Tracy Kenobi, a longtime Lucasfilm publicist, was just talking about this on Twitter, talking about how emotional that is. And it really is. It's super emotional. I'm sorry, I'm going to fix my mic. I'm not trying to cover up myself, but I want to make sure you can hear me really, really well, to be sure. So Kanan versus Maul, Eric says. Eric, I'm assuming that's your number 5. That's a good one as well. Obviously, there's a lot of weight that happens in that one, too. All right. My number 4 is going to sound very familiar based on what we just talked about. Oh, Tom says Obi-Wan versus Maul and Rebels. Ooh, that's a good one too, Tom. I hadn't thought about that. That's your number 5. That is a fantastic one because, I mean, that one was quick, but the lead up to that was super, super powerful as well. Brian says Kanan and Ezra versus Vader. Ooh, gosh, I should have made this like a top 10 for sure. Oh, man, that's a great one too. I'll never forget, I saw that one in Anaheim, at Celebration Anaheim, at the premiere of those episodes. and everyone was so concerned. I remember yelling at the screen, "Run away!" Because I didn't want Kanan and Ezra to get mixed up with Vader because they're not going to have a chance against him. No, even towards the end when Kanan is really much more strong in the Force and in who he is. I mean, it's Darth Vader, right? Oh, LJ says that's his number one. Okay, so we'll get to that for sure. All right, so Eric is moving on to number 4, so I think I'm going to do the same. Number 4 is Duel of the Fates. We already talked about that one for sure. Obviously, Duel of the Fates is iconic. I mean, you've got Ray Park at his finest as Darth Maul against Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan. John Williams' music is unforgettable, one of the most famous for sure. And you just can't go wrong with Duel of the Fates. It's fantastic. The choreography. Eric says, number 4, Vader versus Luke in Return of the Jedi. So that's a great one. In fact, I haven't talked about this yet, but last weekend, Deanna, my wife, has never seen Return of the Jedi, believe it or not. So we did, and Mason wanted to watch it, so we watched it together. I'm trying to institute Star Wars Saturdays, so every Saturday night we watch a new Star Wars movie to basically force Deanna to have to watch all of them. So, we'll kind of see how that goes. But the power of the narrative of that is just gorgeous. Just so good. All right, Tyler's number 4 is Luke versus Vader in in Empire Strikes Back, storytelling through action at its finest. I mean, starting off with both characters a little cocky, with Luke not backing down. Then the end is just this fight for survival, absolutely. A really, really good call. Very, very, very powerful. LJ says number 4 will Duel of the Fates. Absolutely. Jim says Duel of the Fates for all the reasons that I mentioned. And then number 4 is Last Jedi with Rey and Ben fighting together. That's a good one. I have a feeling that one's going to come up later too, Alex. Really, really good. This is tricky. It's almost like being on Marvin Dog Media with Jeff. Because we always do tops with him. Like I said, I was on the G.I. Joe show where we looked at Wave 4. And that came out on Sunday. And we're going to have similar lists, that certainly coincide with one another and sometimes match, but we're going to have different ways of explaining them, which I think is really, really fun. Okay, anybody else want to weigh in on their number 4 before we go on to number 3? Okay. Well, let's go on to the number 3. My number 3 is Yoda versus Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones. So I don't think I need to remind everybody when that happened. It was stunning. I mean, think about the risk that it was having Yoda as this beloved character, arguably my first or tied for my first favorite character in all of Star Wars. And he came out and he used a lightsaber. And not only did he use it to perfection, flipping and dodging and jumping around, being such a tour de force of energy and power, and all in this beautiful, small little green package. It's like the Tolkien thing, the size of the character doesn't match their strength. I mean, Yoda talks about that, obviously, famously, too. Judge me by my size, do you? And, well, you should not, for my ally is the Force. And, boy, is it ever on display for him there. I mean, there's no question about that. It's a tremendous, tremendous one. And the cheers that erupted when Yoda fought Dooku were just unforgettable. Eric says Anakin and Obi-Wan Revenge of the Sith. Obviously, that's a classic. Tom says Maul and Savage versus Darth Sidious. That one almost made it too, because that one is very, very powerful, especially the Emperor's strength. See, I don't want to miss anybody. Blake, first time as a kid I ever heard an audience cheer that loud. Yeah, when Yoda did that, that was unforgettable to me. I actually clapped and cheered in that moment as well. And the best part is I had avoided spoilers. Of course, Dan Z doesn't do spoilers, as we know. So I had no idea Yoda was going to fight. It was just great. Jim says number 3 is Luke versus Vader in The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, that's one of the best for sure. Tyler came in. Tyler was prepared, man. He's got some analysis there, which I love. So Grievous versus a group of Jedi in the Clone Wars. A brutal, intense fight that introduced Grievous as a force to be reckoned with. He was an unstoppable murder machine. And we just watched a couple weeks ago the one where they go to his lair, where he sort of repurposes himself when he is damaged. And it was pretty fearsome. Kit Fisto's former Padawan was there, who's a Mon Calamari, and he ends up getting killed by Grievous. Anytime Grievous is there is great. And he kind of gets a stigma for running away which is totally fair. But I love Grievous. I think he's one of the coolest characters. His voice, the design, everything about him, I thought was great. And of course, he's going to be somewhat of a coward and run away to a degree. For one thing, he's not dumb. He knows the Jedi are going to beat him, but he also wants to live to fight another day. He's really interesting. He's not really great to use in Battlefront, I will say. A little slow, but pretty cool. All right. Number 2, we're getting down to the top ones. Number 2 is Luke versus Vader in The Empire Strikes Back. It was my number 1 for a long time until I mentioned my first one. But just the narrative weight of that, for 3 years we've been waiting to see Luke fight Vader, and I realized that in the comic book in issue number 1 and 2 of Jason Aaron's Star Wars that Vader and Luke face each other, and I know that's canon, but I mean, it's to me it's just much more powerful. The first time they face each other is when Vader is on Cloud City and he ambushes Luke and he says, "The Force is with you, young Skywalker, but you are not a Jedi yet." And that narrative is so powerful. It's just really, really is something. And the lighting in the Cloud City chamber itself, in the Carbon Freeze chamber, is just gorgeous with that orange and the blue. It's just really, it's tremendous. And the fact that there's no music, think about that. And for John Williams, he actually picked that scene. There aren't a lot of scenes in Star Wars without music, but there's no music in that scene. And it's great. It really, really comes through. And then, of course, the battle escalates and gets more and more fierce and more challenging. But it doesn't matter because there's just... It's just great. To me, it's just really, really great. Daniel says Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan and Grievous for sure. Oh, that's a good call. LJ says Anakin versus Kenobi. The emotion, the music, the choreography, the high ground, everything you want in an epic lightsaber battle. The speed of that one, equal. I mean, obviously Darth Maul is just so incredibly fast, but the speed in that one, Anakin versus Kenobi, is great. And the Battle of the Heroes is just really, really powerful. Brian, Pre Vizsla versus Maul in Clone Wars. Ooh, get to see the Darksaber in action. Brian, that's a really good call. The Darksaber is something that's really kind of fascinated us for a long time, and that's when we really got to see it in action for sure. Tyler says that Kit Fisto fight is on my honorable mentions. Oh, big Kit Fisto. Oh, very good. So now LJ says Luke versus Vader, same as Dan. Again, hey, I like it. I'd be happy to serve alongside you in these lists, LJ, for sure. Eric says too, Rey and Kylo versus Praetorian Guards. Incredible choreography and the preview the potential of Rey and Kylo teaming up. Absolutely. Tom says Anakin versus Obi-Wan Revenge of the Sith. I think it's cool that we're starting to get some similarities because there's just a lot of great stuff. And Lucasfilm knows what we're going to love, and it's obvious. Number 2, for Jim. Luke versus Kylo on Crate. It's brief but incredible. You know what? I didn't put that one, even though it's probably my favorite scene in all of Star Wars. But there's not a ton of duel because Luke doesn't even take an offensive move. But that's cool for a different reason. So I can't fault you for that, Jim. That's great. Alex says the Return of the Jedi, Luke versus Vader. Again, that one is just great. The narrative weight on that one might be the heaviest of maybe any of these. Tyler, Luke versus Vader, Return of the Jedi. Again, a beautifully constructed duel. The scene where Vader taunts Luke and Luke loses control is haunting. The choir singing. Whenever John Williams uses choir or choral arrangements, is really, really... It just kind of speaks to you and brings it to a sort of a different level because there's not really words to sing along with, but there's just like this emotion behind it. That's good. Carrie Tucker Ward says Luke versus Kylo on Crate. Cinematography is great, but the storytelling is deep. Easy for me to say. Luke representing peace and purpose, and Kylo fighting his ghosts, in this case, literally. Well, there's no doubt about that. That's a great call, Carrie, and thanks for being here on the show with us, too. Ryan says Luke versus Vader in Return of the Jedi. I remember painting a broom handle green as a kid and pretending to fight Vader. Always one of the greatest moments for me. Oh, nice. That's a really good call. Yeah. Something striking about that green and red together in the Emperor's throne room with that haunting choral arrangement. Blake says Lone Star versus Dark Helmet. I wouldn't have guessed that. Now he says, actually, Anakin versus Obi-Wan Revenge of the Sith. You were my brother Anakin, always hits me in the heart. Yeah. I really want Mason to see Revenge of the Sith, but I just don't know that. I mean, it's just really heavy emotionally with what's everything that's going on with that one. So it might be wild, but I mean, there's certainly no denying how powerful it really is. Man, I can't believe it's been 43 minutes. We think time is really flying by. All right, my number one is Rey and Kylo versus Snoke and the Praetorian Guards in The Last Jedi. I mean, this thing, I don't know a lot about lighting. I mean, just lighting my office for Facebook Live has been something of a challenge. This is, it's a work of art. I mean, the fact that those reds pop, but they don't overpower the scene. The music is great. Just the first time you see that film and the dramatic tension that occurs between Snoke and he seems to have overpowered Rey and Kylo, and you start to get that sense that Kylo is actually turning his lightsaber to kill Snoke. And I just remember, and then it comes through and lands in Rey's hand, and they kind of come together and they fight. And oh my gosh, it's just, I'll never forget it. And then when I saw it with Deanna, she said, "Wow!" And she was so like into it. I feel like that was the most into it she's ever been to a Star Wars movie. It was very electric for me. Jim says, Battle of Heroes is my number one. The setting, stakes, choreography, score, and facial expressions of the actors make it so operatic to me. Oh, absolutely, Jim. Well said. It's a beautiful one. The music is great. I'm starting to notice that for us, yes, the power of the choreography is good, but it seems like we're kind of leaning towards the narrative, which is cool. Snoke's throne room, Rey and Kylo team up is amazing, beautiful scene. Thank you, Dave. Good to see you, man, for sure. Tyler says, Anakin versus Obi-Wan Revenge of the Sith. Not only my favorite lightsaber duel, is my favorite fight scene of all time, a perfect blend of emotion, choreography, and John Williams' epic score. Duel I've waited for ever since I was a kid, and more than lived up to it. Oh, I agree. It absolutely lived up to it for sure. Alex, number one, Duel of the Fates, the amazing fight choreography, best fight scene out of the whole Skywalker saga. I mean, you really can't argue with that either, can you? It's really great. So LJ had said earlier, Obi-Wan versus Maul Twin Sons edition. Brief, but it takes the lightsaber battle back to its samurai roots. Kenobi switching stances to bait Maul is brilliant. Also, the conversation between them before Maul passes is heartbreaking. Even at the end, Maul still wants revenge. Wow. He did, but I actually feel like Maul had peace at the end. You know, who is that? Is it the Chosen One? And Obi-Wan says yes, which I believe that Obi-Wan does think that Luke is the Chosen One. Of course he's going to think that because he's human, and he also knows what happened with Anakin very much, and he doesn't, I think he had a hard time making peace with that. I mean, he had a lot of time to be in the desert to kind of marinate on that. That had to be hard, especially when you're as close to Anakin as you are. Eric says Luke and Vader on Cloud City, so much emotional weight. Vader's absolutely brutal. He really is. And it's also the first time you see a crack in his armor, but not till the very, very end. Blake Weaver, Vader versus Luke in Return of the Jedi, the back and forth between father and son with the haunting music. Luke realizing he could slowly become his father. He looks at his hand, and finally Vader turning back to the light to bring balance. Yeah, it's great. I should have been keeping track of all these, because I wonder what when it looks like. Anything with with Anakin fighting, whether he's Vader or as Anakin himself, is where the most power is. Brian says Obi-Wan versus Anakin. The choreography is amazing. We know who wins in the end, but it was so theatrical, and I felt all the emotions during the fight. Yeah, and this is another example of dramatic irony, because even though you know what's going to happen, the characters in it don't know what's going to happen. He also didn't really know how it was going to play out, which really makes for some intensity, and the drama, the pathos that evokes is really wonderful. Ryan Page says, Duel of the Fates is my number one, specifically when Obi-Wan takes on Maul himself. Once that hallway opens up, the combat speed is incredible. Yeah, it does kind of pick up as the intensity does, too. So, Tom's... Ooh, did you hear that? It was so weird when I went through puberty, Tom. How exciting. So... very, very nice. Thank you very much. So, weird choice, but the Battle of Geonosis is what he says. May not sit this high presently, but it was exactly what I wanted. Yeah, to be able to see the Jedi for the first time like that, I think was really, really cool. There's no doubt about that. Okay. Very good. Did the I feel like there's something going on with the sound effects. I apologize if there is. Dave says, not a duel, but Vader coming down the hall at the end of Rogue One is epic Vader. Oh, yeah. I mean, if we did a top 5 Vader moments, you'd be hard-pressed not to put that in there. And then that'd be number 1 or 1A, because that's about as good as it gets, honestly. Really, really impressive stuff. Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on their favorite lightsaber duels? I mean, there's a lot of great ones, for sure. I feel like we didn't do a lot about Rebels. We certainly did stuff with Vader, but are there any duels in Rebels that kind of stand out to everybody? I mean, I guess I mentioned my number 5 was Ahsoka against the Inquisitors. Okay. All right. So, tell you what, we need to do a top 5 for next week. I kind of like this format of coming up with a top 5, but then also having something else to talk about. Of course, we had the awesome Jedi from the High Republic. Again, we had Avar Kriss, which showed up. We have Loden Greatstorm. We have Keeve Trennis. We have Stellan Gloss. And we had Vernetta Ra. Again, not really sure about the pronunciation of any of these, but they're fascinating. Again, I'm your host for today, Dan Z. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here on Facebook Live every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. We want to talk stars. We want to get your mind off what's going on. We want to provide an outlet for you. I mean, look at how interactive this has been. I mean, I think this is fun because you all make it fun for me because of your honesty, because of your passion, because of your intelligence. It's my great pleasure to be able to have a Star Wars community to get to be a part of. So thank you so much for allowing me to do that. It really does mean the world to me that you are spending this time with me. And of course, if you can't catch it live, it's going to be here on Facebook in the CWK Cafe, as well as on Facebook.com/Coffee with Kenobi. Eric says they're easier to pronounce than my middle name. My last name was also always kind of tricky. Zare. A lot of people had a hard time with that for a while. Alex, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. These are fun. It's a whole other different animal than hosting a podcast, though. You can't see what I can see right now, but there's just a whole bunch of little windows everywhere, different things I can do. I thought I could play sound effects here, but the applause didn't play. Does this work? No, nothing. Huh. I'm not sure if anybody can hear those or not. We'll just kind of play with that and sort of see what happens for the future. Anyway, not important. So, of course, you can find us each and every week on Coffee with Kenobi, wherever you find podcasts, to be sure. If you are a reader or you want to learn more about sort of Star Wars and sort of an analytical approach to things, please pre-order the Star Wars book, available October 20th, 2020, written by myself, Pablo Hidalgo, and Cole Horton. Really excited for everybody to read that. Always a great time. Thank you, LJ. Taylor says it's my favorite part of Mondays. Thanks again, man. I appreciate that. They're fun. They're a lot of fun to do. They're a lot of fun to spend this time with each and every one of you. I love it. It's just great fun. I'm going to keep doing them as long as you are a part of that. Last week with this, I uploaded them to YouTube and I put them on Instagram. I had almost 700 views, which is great. So let's keep those moving. Let's keep that going. I really want to build up our Instagram. So if you don't follow Coffee with Kenobi on Instagram, please do so. If you get to 10,000 follows, you get a swipe up option in your stories, and that will allow me to do quite a few different things, which I'm excited about. Yeah, that was fun. So for next week, what do you want to do for a top 5? I'm open to ideas for sure. Let me know over here. Jim, I'm so glad you turned in. It was fun to have you. Of course, you've been such a great supporter of the show for so long. It's good to see you. Brian says, fantastic way to start the week. Oh, I agree. I'm very, very glad you feel that way. Yeah, Eric, these are fun. They're really, really fun. The Force is, in fact, strong. Can you get a signed copy? You know what? Yeah, of course you can. Everybody's asking me about that. I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people have asked me over the past couple weeks about that, which I think is pretty crazy. Top 5 video games or ships? You know what? Let's do ships. Let's do top 5 Star Wars ships. Yeah, spaceships, spacecraft, all things like that. For sure. No favorite character would be fun, I think, but that one, that's pretty meaty. I don't know. We could probably do that, but no, let's just go with ships. Top 5 favorite ships. of course, I knew this was going to happen. LJ says top 5 moments of the Falcon being a character. Well, that's going to be a short show because it's not a character. As we saw in the first one, I hope I still have the video of the first ever Facebook Live because that was really fun. Yeah, the ships being characters, not so much. Not so much. All right, very, very good. So again, thanks again, everybody. Be sure to tune in every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Of course, subscribe to Coffee with Kenobi on iTunes. Give us a 5-star review. That would be great. The more reviews that I get for Coffee with Kenobi, the more when people type in Star Wars in the search bar, the more they can actually see the show and find the show, which is really, really good. If you are going to, okay, hopefully everybody can hear the music. If you are going to look for Star Wars and you want to spread the word, let everybody know that you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. Let everybody know that you are actively, oh, there we go. Let them know that you are a part of this community. I think it's exciting. I think it's important. And I think it adds a lot to the Star Wars narrative. I mean, Star Wars fans are great. Let's let everybody know that. Let's spread that word for sure, because I think it just makes for so much fun. Thanks again, everybody, so much. I'm battling, so I'm going to sign out now. I will see you next time. See you around. Be sure to go to CWK Cafe, our Facebook group, and talk with us there. We'd love to keep the conversation going. We're going to record very, very soon. Tom and I, we're going to review the latest episode of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Until next time, this is the podcast and Facebook Live event you are looking for.